Female serial killers. Aileen Wuornos. The most well-known female serial killer, Aileen Wuornos, was a prostitute who, between 1989 and 1990, murdered at least 7 men in Florida in the same manner. On February 29, 1956, Aileen was born in Michigan. Her father was a psychopath who committed suicide in prison before she was born. Aileen and her brother were abandoned by their mother. Since she was a young child, she had been raped both inside and outside of her home. When she was a teenager, she got pregnant, and her child was taken away. Despite being gay, she worked as a prostitute to survive when she was 15 years old and homeless. 3 murders in Florida between December 1989 and April 1990 set the stage for these serial killings. But it wasn't until November that the body of truck driver Troy Burris was discovered in a remote location close to a road that anyone realized they were dealing with a serial killer, since all of the killings in a particular area were carried out with .22 caliber firearms, and the victims' possessions, including cars, watches, and cash, were stolen. The police began to suspect they were dealing with a serial killer. The police believed that the killer in the subsequent murder of Charles Humphreys might be a woman after discovering a number of clues at the crime scene, including makeup residue and feminine objects. Police discovered that the murderer was Aileen in July 1990, after she and her girlfriend crashed in a car she had stolen from the 6th victim. Although Aileen believed she hadn't been identified yet, the police were able to track her down months later with the assistance of her girlfriend, Tyra Moore. She was taken into custody at a biker bar. Aileen Wuornos initially denied any involvement in the murders and refrained from confessing after being taken into custody under the supervision of her attorney. However, the police devised a plan with her partner Tyra Moore's assistance. Tyra called Aileen and asked her to tell the truth to save her. Aileen eventually confessed to the killings a few days later, under emotional pressure, but she insisted that she had acted in self-defense because the men had planned to rape her. The court rejected this defense. Finally, on October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was put to death at Florida State Prison by lethal injection. She said something in her last moments that revealed her strange beliefs and mental turmoil. "I'm walking with a rock, and I'm coming back like in the Independence Day movie with Jesus Christ, June 6th, with the mothership. I'm coming back." Aileen's last years were clearly characterized by mental illness. She occasionally accused the government of monitoring her or of mind control. With 7 victims, bizarre confessions, and a tragic end, the story of America's most controversial female serial killer came to a close. Number 2. Rosemary West, a woman who, alongside her husband, turned their home into a house of horrors, where many homeless women and girls entered but never came out. This is a very serious story, so please take a seat. Rosemary West was born in England in 1953. She had a deeply troubled upbringing. It's believed that her mother's use of psychiatric medications during pregnancy, along with her father's abusive and controlling behavior, had a lasting effect on Rosemary's mental state. From a young age, she began displaying disturbing sexual behavior. As a teenager, she fell in love with a man named Fred West. Together, they became a monstrous pair. After getting married, they moved into a house at 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester. This home would later become infamous, one of the most horrific crime scenes in England's history. Why? Because they had built a torture chamber in the basement. Under the pretense of offering jobs or rented rooms, Fred and Rosemary lured young, single women to their home. Once inside, the victims were tied up, handcuffed, and tortured, often using ropes, restraints, and even electrical devices. Some were later strangled or mutilated with knives. The couple then buried the bodies in the garden or under the basement floor. The most shocking part of the story? One of their victims was their own daughter, Heather West. Yes, their daughter. When Heather was 16, she threatened to go to the police. To silence her, they murdered her and buried her in the backyard. Eventually, the police searched the house and made a horrifying discovery. Human remains and bone fragments were found both in the basement and the garden. At least 9 victims were buried there, but investigators believe there were many more. Fred West died by suicide in prison before he could stand trial. Rosemary West, however, was tried and convicted in one of the most notorious court cases in British history. She was sentenced to life in prison, 10 life terms without the possibility of parole. To this day, Rosemary West remains in prison, a woman whose calm appearance hid the heart of a ruthless killer. Number 3. Mary Ann Cotton. Mary Ann Cotton was born in England in 1832. Her childhood was extremely difficult. After her father was killed in a mining accident, her mother was left alone to care for the family. From a young age, Mary Ann began searching for a wealthy husband as a way to escape poverty. She married her first husband, but he soon fell ill and passed away. According to people at the time, he suffered from a strange illness and eventually died after experiencing severe diarrhea and stomach pain. The troubling part was that Mary Ann always purchased life insurance for her husbands and children. She married again, and the same thing happened to her second husband. He died after suffering from bloody diarrhea, intense stomach pain, and agonizing screams. Once again, Mary Ann collected the insurance money. This disturbing pattern continued. Her third husband, her fourth, their children, and even her own mother died under similar mysterious circumstances. She is believed to have murdered at least 21 people. How did she do it? Arsenic, a tasteless, odorless white powder. Arsenic was easy to mix into soup, tea, or food. Her victims would develop severe stomach aches and diarrhea, and after a few days, they would die. At the time, medical science was not advanced enough to easily detect poisoning, so no one initially suspected foul play. Suspicion only arose after the death of her most recent husband, when people began to notice a pattern. Everyone around this woman is dying. The police launched an investigation. When they examined her husband's body, they found traces of arsenic. Mary Ann was arrested and put on trial. In court, she remained calm and emotionless, as if she had done nothing wrong. In 1873, she was finally executed by hanging. It is said that her face showed fear when the rope was placed around her neck. Mary Ann Cotton is considered one of the first known female serial killers in English history.